Hello, everyone, on this fine evening of Tuesday, January 31st, 2017. I am Christopher Stephen Jacobs, along with my lovely co-host, Joanna Michaels. Tonight, we want to start talking about how this learning environment is set up, our understanding of the infrastructure to it all. And then we will be discussing a most important topic, one that shakes a very core foundation of our society. This may take on a darker thread in some parts this evening, but this subject is worth mentioning. If you have read the blog, you know that tonight's show covers people known as changers and anti-changers. These people are all through our society, but the people as a whole know every day little to nothing of these two groups. So tonight, we will lay it all out for you. But first, Joanna, can you give tonight's affirmation and blessing?
Sure. This affirmation and blessing comes from a galactic who is known as Lady Stardust. May tonight's show inform as well as enlighten the people to the wonders of the soul, as well as show the people the horrors to discern against. There are contrasts in all aspects of your society. So why are changers and anti-changers, as you have come to call them, any different? Learn as well as live. Thank you.
That was great, Joanna. Now, where do I begin? Now, yes, we will start with the more positive half of this equation and go from there. In many of my reads, I notice that some people have certain qualities to them that make them more suited to take charge in a certain area, usually vibrational change within a variety of different occupations. For some, this vibration helps others just by them being in the room with other people. I've noticed this quite a bit, actually. There is a particular resonance about these people, and thusly they are hit with the most oppression. The darker forces out there feel that they can control these people and prevent our society from moving forward. The only way this happens is if these changers willingly give their power over to these forces. This can actually happen in a variety of different ways: dreams, intentions. Sometimes people don't know that they're doing it, etc. And it's not that easy. This group, these changers, came in a bit different. To understand this, let's discuss our understanding of the basics of how our experience is set up. Firstly, said in our intro blog, we most definitely believe in the source, or some would say God. We believe all of us and everything in between makes up this entity. We also believe that the source wanted to have experiences and decided to divide itself up into parts, with the parts having amnesia for a while in order to grow and learn who they are. The source initially divided itself into entities with a lot of innate skills. These aspects would work together to put together learning environments for other parts of itself. This is a huge concept to get. The true infrastructure of how it is all put together, and we will speak on this throughout other shows, bit by bit. But for now, what I'm trying to get at is this. After Source divided itself, there were three aspects. Nature itself, also known as the elemental code, or epsilon. The soul grouping known as M, of which the famous Elohim Creator Council was born within it. This would include Michael's Council and a third group rarely spoken of known only as the Constant, which includes the sciences, physics, and the like. Contrary to being a constant, people think that the laws of physics are being broken by a lot of these different ET races and their amazing technology. This could not be further from the truth. It is just that they, in some respects, have a much greater understanding of the already established sciences. The other two groups, Nature and M, are more malleable and flexible as far as major changes go to their groups goes. Things like audits, revocations, and others have these groups shifting all the time. I've seen this many times with M in particular. He used to appear to me as a prophet-like person in a robe, kind of like almost like a Christ-looking figure. Now he's kind of taken on more of a superhero persona, which is actually kind of funny. He just wears this superhero outfit with a big golden M on his chest. It's a long story of how he got that far, but it's actually quite funny. But the constant always remains firm, always in that pillar, that rock. I've actually met that particular entity as well. All three of them always seem to, well, at least two of them seem to change looks. The other one really does not. So you may be asking yourself, what does this have to do with changers? This is the answer I received in a nutshell. The constant, as I previously stated, encompasses the science, scientific method, etc. But what the constant also encompasses is change itself. You see, when I asked to speak to the head of this group, he came to me and said his name was truly change. That change is the one true constant of creation. Hence, the changers in our society helping to move society along while still adhering to the whims and rules of the constant. Change cannot be audited, revoked, or altered. Though it may seem this way at first glance, change can never be taken from us. Only our perceptions and perspectives of how we view change can be skewed for a short period of time. Joanna, is there anything you would like to add to this?
Yes, this was really, it was just so fascinating to learn about. So changers, people, can have an aspect of the constant. And really what that means is that these people agreed to be or do whatever was asked of them by the constant in consultation with nature and M, so that this learning experience had some sort of general guaranteed outline, and of course it was all approved by the source. So that's how there are certain facts that have been spoken about in things such as even sci-fi books and shows that are not able to be changed no matter what those darn time travelers try to do. And that was actually a bit of disclosure in those books and shows, because simply put, it is not going to be allowed. If it's a factual issue from constant, it's not going to be allowed. So we asked how many changers there were, and we were actually told millions. And then we learned that changers aren't just human, but can be from any of the species that are within this learning curriculum. And we learned that since changers were facts, that they could not be killed off before their mission had been completed, much to the chagrin of the efforts during the Montauk Project, which we will discuss in future episodes, and that will be a long discussion. But anyway, let me get back on track. So, I kind of asked, well, do they have free will? I mean, they agreed to do certain things, but do they have free will? And I was told yes. So I want everyone to kind of think of it like this, kind of envision that hourglass shape. And in the center, where a piece of sand passes from one globe to another, that's the factual event by that piece of sand. So while that piece of sand is in the above globe, it can do whatever it likes. It can squiggle all over the place, jump, hop, squiggle, doesn't matter. Be left, be right, be up, it doesn't matter. But when it comes time to perform their fact, it will go down and pass through no matter what. We just thought, when we were learning about that, this actually was really such a cool concept. And it's really kind of interesting because if you kind of reflect it back at those people that, would always say that, don't worry, God is in control, that in all honesty, they actually may know what they're talking about in that sense. So that's the cool thing, about what we learned about the changers in this learning dynamic. But I know that there's some more negative aspects to all of this, and Chris will now explain that.
Yes, Joanna, as good as the changers are, there's always going to be the pendulum swing. Hence, you have anti-changers. Let me recap the different types from the blog. Some of this information may be old news because I started channeling this concept of changers and anti-changers over a year ago. But with some of this material, it may be new to the listener. The beings I refer to as inborns, different disinfo agents, ridicule agents, and sexual agents have been integrated into our society. Most of them are right out in the open for everyone to see, but as the fictional character Sherlock Holmes once stated, most see but do not observe. These anti-changers are the darkness's way of having a dog in the fight. They are the distractors of the society and are put in people's and groups' way in order to halt any good works that said group, person, or persons are doing. They have infiltrated on multiple levels, but mainly hover in what is considered to be middle to lower class. They are not normally found in the higher class because much of the higher class is cabal, and they send them down to confuse the groups they consider beneath them. So, to quickly restate what was in the blog, inborns are there to bring in as much misery as possible. Sometimes the person knows who they are, and sometimes they do not. They thrive on the adoration of others, and they cause great stress within households. Many people know exactly what I'm talking about. I've had various situations. If people read the blog, they know about the situation I lived in earlier in Arizona with somebody who caused a lot of fear and a lot of stress in our household. I will never name this person because I'm going to not character assassinate. But suffice to say, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people that go through this daily. Usually if you get on an inborn's radar, that usually means you are a changer in some respect, or at least live with one. They are meant to just cause all sorts of disruptions, and that leads me to the next set of agents. That would be disinfo agents. These guys are pretty self-explanatory. With kernels of truth, they add lies and confusion. Many of you may see videos online that may seem like they have kernels of truth to them, but then there's just some air of BS intermixed in with it. That's usually disinformation that's being spread around. There are people that infiltrate different groups out there, like UFO groups, Sasquatch groups, many different groups that have to do with the paranormal, etc. That if it's a group that's doing good in this world, you can rest assured these agents usually are there to try to cause dissent and discord within these groups. They may not know that they are doing this and think they are doing good, in fact. I've run into this before in having to deprogram some people. It can be done. It just is extremely difficult. In fact, they work for the cabal. They have worked for the cabal from the beginning. And so have inborns. Inborns are a lot more complex. Their origins stretch back clear to Atlantis and in ancient history. The embryo is pretty much instilled with this genetic knowledge of these demon life forms. They found a way to skip and jump into our genetic code over a period of time. But the majority of that detail is in the blog. And this leads me to the next one. Ridicule agents are all about personally criticizing people. They are either hired by the cabal or controlled by the cabal via voice-to-skull technology. They're trying to destroy a person's thoughts by destroying their reputation and self-esteem. You've more than likely run into these your whole life and not even realized it. You know, say you're on the path. Say you're doing good in this world. Say you actually believe something very strongly, but you're afraid that you're going to look bad in front of others. Now, not only is the psychic influence from the outside trying to amplify these feelings, but you may run across people, though, that are, they make fun, no reason, make fun of you for absolutely no reason. They point and laugh. Like I encountered somebody in Nebraska one time, went in and said I did paranormal research. This was somebody that worked for the university at one point, and this person just pointed and laughed at me. No reason whatsoever, completely unprofessional and just all around rude. And that would be at least the smaller example of a ridicule agent. And as an aside, these three classifications can at times try to infiltrate, like I said, UFO and Sasquatch groups. This happens quite often, a lot more often than people think. Now, this leads me to the last one. This one is a little more obscure, but this does happen. This leads me to sexual agents. Pretty much what your imagination tells you. They are able to break apart marriages and other normally good relationships because they have been given an enhancement of hormones and other things that allow them to be irresistible. I have come to realize that there was actually disclosure of this in the mid-90s on a show called First Wave. If people know this show, there was this man that was running from the cabal. His wife was actually murdered by some alien species, and he had to go on the run. The cabal then set him up for the murder, and then he's a wanted man. But then he writes this journal as he goes along, and it's supposed to be based off of fictitious creations of the Nostradamus prophecies. But in a particular episode, this is one that stands out in this particular subject. He entered into a neighborhood where he discovered a lot of sexual deviance going on there that was breaking families apart. To understand, these sexual agents can easily be your next door neighbor. So in this show, this man, the character of Cade, goes around trying to investigate these alien occurrences, and then he came to find out that there were these really, beautiful women that had been inserted into different neighborhoods all across the country. And these were aliens that were literally trying to break up the fabric of the family units. No, the aliens knew this was a strength, so in the show. And they attempted to break them up, and eventually, of course, the character finds them out, and the hero wins the day, usually, like it does in these shows. But yeah, they showed it as somebody's next door neighbor, somebody that could easily be around close to you. So sometimes these people know who they are, and sometimes they do not. 9 times out of 10, it's the latter of that. They tend not to know. The ones that know, from my understanding, have some sort of vampiric energy to them. This goes into a completely different realm that we're not going to completely touch on this evening, like going into vampire cults and the like. That's a completely complex subject that can be done on a different night. But suffice it to say, these two can be one at some points. Sometimes these agents, especially disinfo agents, are put right out in front of us. Think of TV news, movies, documentaries, disclosure shows, as I've said, YouTube videos too. This is where I remind you to discern the message and not the messengers. Joanna, what do you want to add here?
Well, I think the hardest one to spot is that disinfo agent, because I really think they rely on becoming so likable and by providing provocative and in the beginning, correct information, that they are depending on people to just decide that they are a believable person. And then they can start deviating from the truth to confuse and manipulate others, because part of the goal is to convince people of something, usually that's going to help the darkness, because they want us to believe it so we can help co-create it with our co-creative skills. So I personally just can't state enough to discern the message and not the messenger. And I can think of many examples, but we agreed on the show that we would not character assassinate. And, these people that we believe are disinfo, they may not even know it. So, we will basically just state, and I'll just state what I understand, that it's right there. And, anyone, my advice would be this: if you have given allegiance to anyone, and we're included in that. So if you just given blind allegiance to anyone, I think you just need to decide to up your skills and start listening to the individual messages and not just blindly follow who you've given allegiance to, and work on your skills. And one thing else is, what they wish and what is are two different things. We're just not that far into 5D yet. There's not going to be this instantaneous snap of the finger changeover. And so, it's really important to understand that even though you may wish it's over, it's far from, there, that the cabal is still firmly entrenched in all forms of the media. So I'm sorry to have to be the bearer of bad news, that you really, really have to look at these people and the message. But there is something on a good note. From what we understand, there actually are some shows now where there is a compromise and both truth and Decepho is given. It's like the light and the dark agreed to a joint adventure of doing a particular show. The light wants to get the information out. The dark wants to throw some distractors in there. But if you get your discernment skills up, you're going to be able to tease out the truth from the mistruth. So you really need to brush off those discernment skills. And as far as us, you should feel free to ask us whatever you want on a particular subject matter, and we'll tell you what our understanding is. But don't ask us about the person delivering the message. We're just not going to do something like that on air. Is somebody telling the truth or not? But if you ask about the message, we'll be happy to talk about the message. So anyway, so that's about all I wanted to add. So, Chris, do you think it's time to see what the Galactics have to say about all of this?
Yes, actually, I would. But there is something very important I'd like to add. This came from one of our viewer emails this evening, as a matter of fact. This email made a very good point about changers and anti-changers. And I'm not going to mention the name of the person because I don't know if I've been given permission. So I will actually read this particular email. Then I will go into what the Galactics have to say this evening. The Galactic that's here right now with me is my guide Simeon. So I know he's eager to talk, so I'm just going to quit babbling and I'm going to read this email. It says, "Hi, Chris and Joanna. It will come to no surprise that everyone who is listening to this show, now or in the archives, are either a changer or an anti-changer. The former are listening for the purpose of evolving their beliefs, and the latter are tuning in as a way to better understand their opponents. But there is another large piece of this pie missing. If we return to our days in school, we will remember the Bell graph, a distribution system that places data into an 80-20 ratio. In our case, the 20% represents all changers of society, positive and negative, and the 80% represents the sheeple, or those who are in a state of unawareness. The purpose of all changers is to impact the consciousness of the remaining 80%. Both sides are waging a type of energy battle with the outcome determining whether humanity ascends now or later. The anti-changers have been well aware of this fact and have been tightly controlled from the top down. The vice-like grip of their controllers has purposefully thwarted humanity's ability to raise their vibration. On the other hand, the changers have been working in isolation or in very small units that have little to no common coordination. Even though we are aligned to the light, we have not been allowed to organize any mass leadership. Up until recently, if and when a changer steps forward, they would be quickly attacked on many levels. People like you, Chris and Joanna, have needed to be very brave and very careful in all your actions. We thank you for your service to humanity. Sadly, in the game of ascension, it has been next to impossible to shrug off the anti-changers. Until now, where we finally have a development in our favor. Since passing 2012, Earth herself is raising in vibration, becoming our main changer agent. Now, the energies arriving from the central sun are reaching out to us all: Gaia, changers, anti-changers, sheeple, and all sentient kind. We are close to a tipping point. It is time for us all to rethink our positions. Now it's the time for forgiveness, as well as a moment for much proactive solutions. Prime Creator has given us the gift of new energy. The whole planet's vibratory footprint is raising to a new baseline. Gaia is giving us all a boost to climb up and over the anti-changer tall fence. But she's just giving us her back to climb from. It's up to all changers to go the rest of the way on their own. We lead by example, and hopefully many of the 80% will follow suit. Because of this, now more than ever, every changer is critically important. We need to come from our isolation, share our private viewpoints to those around us, and share our viewpoints around us. We need to send our energy to the very heart of Gaia and keep the snowballing energy flow growing. Throughout the universe, we will be known as the generation of humanity that shrugged off the oppressors and changed our world. I couldn't have said that better myself. Hopefully this person continues to write emails such as this. This is actually very well written and thought out. And now this leads me, I know this seems like an early start to this section, but this leads me to the galactic contribution. Then afterwards we will go to listener questions. So, let's see now what Simeon has to bring to the table, literally. So let's see. Let's see here. Give him a little bit to come in. Oh, he's coming in strong. Okay. Give me just a moment. Give me a second. There's some interruption on the signal. I've had this happen all day today. This particular subject is not to the darker aspects of our world are not too keen to let this take place. So, all right. Simeon's getting rid of something that's trying to block me. Greetings, everyone. Forgiveness for the disruption in the channeling frequencies. There are many, as you say, anti-changers on the cusp of learning themselves that do not wish this information to come to fruition. So, we will let this information come to fruition. As you know, my name is Simeon, also known as Larnias. In your histories, I have seen many ages of your earth come and go in front of my very eyes. I have seen variations of these changers and anti-changers that stretch all the way back to Atlantis and your ancient Egypt, and even of my world, which you call Mars. This has happened in some variation or another over your histories. The descent and the like within the general population that causes whole governments to topple, causes empires to fall, and the like. But the opposite is also true. From the ashes of all these fallen empires comes the changers, comes this constant, comes this uncorruptible thread of both DNA and psyche and also soul. These uncorruptible threads were needed by creation itself in order to balance itself, and so that creation itself could learn most efficiently. In this particular respect, these changers gained more of an understanding. They came in with more of creation's wisdom and creation's, as you say, strength. But then there's also the anti-changers, as what was previously stated, which I can confirm the information is most accurate. These particular individuals were not just, as you say, enlisted by the Cabal, but from the darker aspects of creation. What I mean is this. I will clarify now that I am not referring to any sort of satanic figure or devil, of which certain religious beliefs attribute all of these particular anti-changers to. Oh, no, 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 no. The mix of what you say is yin-yang is within every single being in creation. This includes myself. I, in my older years, or should say younger years, was not exactly up to the very par and standard that I am today. I was more or less on the, as you would say, anti-changer side of the spectrum many thousands of years ago. This is why I know and can feel in my very being that some of these people can come out of the ashes and into the light. This particular confession on my part does have a purpose. Within your society, as I have said, that these anti-changers are a representation of the overage of the darkness that a dear friend of mine, Helios, once said. This I will give in a nutshell. There was once, as you say, a balance to this area of space. When Helios came to this area of space, he knew that it would one day become the classroom of which your species would evolve. In this classroom, there had to be both light and dark to give contrasts to one's life. However, Helios, as he would say in his haste, allowed too many of what you know of as controller spheres into your system. These controller spheres ended up quarantining the system in order to build a variation of the empire they once possessed in an alternate reality. In that alternate reality, it was made of nothing but darkness. This is why the multiverse and your creator, as you called, your godly figure, attempted to, as you say, disseminate and disintegrate this universe. In their desperation, these spheres reached out telepathically to many universes and many realities to try to save themselves. You may see this plot as very, very familiar. This was actually accurately depicted on the show Doctor Who. I will not get into that very much further, but just suffice it to say, your science fiction, as you say, outlets show these things quite accurately. I will continue. In this particular paradigm, these spheres decided all on their own that they were going to become the essence of this dark energy. This is why you have, as you would feel, an overabundance of anti-changers. This actually is becoming a falsehood because this overage is starting to be skimmed off the top, as you would say, by myself and many other extraterrestrial races that are aligned with good and balance and want to see nothing but human salvation, such as Valiant Thor and the Venusian people, and myself and the Pleiadian Collective, or the beings you know of as the Nordic Pleiadians, and also variations thereof, which are the Plajaran races, and Chiwanda's people, which would be the ancient Mayan race. These are all the galactic changers that I personally know of other than the Syrian star beings and variations of the Anunnaki, or Orion souls as you know them to be. Not all of these beings had goodness in their heart for a very long time, but that has since changed. This brings me to how anti-changers can be avoided. You can actually send love and light and caringness to these particular beings by merely sending these thoughts to them. Not connecting to them telepathically, mind you, because they are telepathically adept in some cases. I am saying, send the light of creation to these particular individuals. Send your intent that you see them as an even keel to yourself, not seeing them as dark or unaware or somehow sickly in some fashion, although that is indeed the instinct that people would give, especially in instances where people are harmed on a mass scale. This is quite understandable, and I myself have a, as you say, difficult time with some of the things that I personally run across in my day-to-day environment. It wears on me emotionally as well, but if I wish to remain in, as you humans would say, an evolved state. This is not an egocentric mindset, mind you. This is a, as you say, factual inclination that I consider myself equal to all of you, but I also consider myself quite knowledgeable and connected to Source. This does not mean that I am accessing ego. This means I am accessing Source the way it is meant to be accessed. I see this happening for humans all across the board. I see this happening to even some disinfo agents, sexual agents, and ridicule agents out there. Because remember, in the end, these people were victims of a much, much worse plot than even humans currently in this time continuum know of. I will not go into that completely because I do not wish people to manifest poorly and manifest the wrong thing. You would unwittingly give power to the dark agenda if you knew the full breadth of what they have done throughout your histories. I say this as a kindness because I wish to be able to inform without doing damage to your society. This leads me to some of our restrictions that I will only lightly touch on, but most majorly touch on in a future episode of your shows here tonight, which I find most pleasing to me and my people. These restrictions were placed on us a long time ago by people that I will mention later on in your show's histories. But suffice it to say, we have our restrictions and we have our, as you say, blessings that we can work within, or should I say margins for error that we can work within. Some of us violate it, some of us do not. That is all I will go into on that very subject. But just know that these people out there that you know of as anti-changers, some can be changed, some cannot. But, as you say, send them all light and loving intentions, nonetheless. Thank you. All right. Looks like Simeon has detached from me. Let me see if there's anyone else around who wishes to speak. Let me see here. Let me see. Aha. Okay. Looks like one of the dragon people wishes to talk tonight. Is this Lintazar that wants to talk? Okay, yeah, good. I jokingly say they all look very similar to one another, but and now she is actually, what is she wanting to talk about? Okay. Let's have her come through. Greetings, everyone. This is Lentisar of the beings you know of as a dragon kind. This particular message of mine will be brief, as I wish to let others of my people and other beings here tonight to come through. The message that Simeon has just given is most sound, because these particular beings you know of as anti-changers, the only way that these people can be, as you say, defeated is by not being acknowledged or pandered to in any way, shape, or form. What I'm saying is this: if something thrives off adoration, why give them a second thought? If they thrive off the very energy that you are giving them, why feed the beast, as you humans would say? Why give these people any more adoration or attention than you need to? Informing the people about them is not actually placating to their adoration or their addiction to adoration. What I'm saying is this: us informing you of these people does not necessarily mean that we are giving them a tool in which you are actually, as you say, being hurt by. But what I'm trying to say is this: these particular beings, if you put enough of the positive energy towards them, and if you live your day-to-day life and not care what other people think of you, say ridicule agents, are in place, or other unsuspecting people that have been abused by voice-to-skull technology, as you call it. These particular people aren't always at fault, so why would you wish to do the cabal's job for them by hurting them or ridiculing them in return? No, no, this makes absolutely no sense to our kind. No. What you do is this. You send them loving intentions. And also, in the case of really toxic energies, you walk away from them. This would be known as the rule of toxic energies. In this, this rule states that if an energy is becoming far and beyond toxic, that your kind can withstand and still walk the path, there is no harm in walking away from said person or persons that are emanating this toxic energy. You will find, if you do so, that your path will catapult forward and will become more prosperous for you in return. We are not saying that not to help people and not be compassionate towards people, but there are some individuals out there that are far and beyond what you would know of as help. They are the human equivalent to a collapsing universe, to where creation is actually cutting off that particular limb or root to the tree. So therefore, that limb or root is toxic to the rest of the tree. For you to be around it, you will feel the toxicity of that particular individual, and thusly you will feel the energy, sending your own energy and your path into a tailspin, very much as if an oppressor itself, such as a demon, Draco, or Archon, or the like, were actually in you or near you. It is the same effect because it is the same dark source. So, the rule of toxicity or toxic energies would state that you have every right to walk away. This is how change is born when you let some of these toxic energies go by the wayside. This is what I have come to say this evening, but I will say blessings to all of you on this call, and have a good night, everyone. Thank you. All right. Let's see. Lentazar came in pretty strong with that one. I'll see if anybody else wants to. There is one more being that wishes to come in. This is somebody who's never spoken on the show. This looks to be a gnome because I had to look down at her. A little guy, probably no bigger than 3 feet, if that. Who is this? Oh, okay. You're going to find this funny. I doubt whether this is his actual name. This is the name he gave me many weeks ago. He calls himself Nifty. And he wanted to run in here and give his 2 cents. So let's see what he has to say here. Let's see. Greetings, everyone. I come to you with the exuberance of a child, but the intellect of an adult. What I'm saying is this. In your travels, you may notice that there are some people that act as children and others that act with an extreme intellect. What I'm saying, in your environment, when you encounter these anti-changers, act with what you would know of as street smarts, but also have the playfulness of a child. My kind, what you know of as the gnome species. We tend to gardens, we walk in nature, we become that with nature, we are nature itself. We live with the exuberance of a child, we see through a child's eyes, but we also have the intellect of what you would know of as an adult kind. This gives us what you know of as street smarts. This shows us the dangers that are around, and therefore we know when to be visible and when not to be visible. We know when to hide our energy cores and when to burn bright in the sun and under the stars. This is the message that I came to give tonight. I know this is short, but sometimes messages do not have to be a manifesto, as this one would say, very much like Dear Michael usually gives. We are not actually poking fun. Okay, we are poking fun at him because he deserves it. But he is not here to defend himself tonight, so we can get away with it. But this is where I end my message this evening. Blessings from that of the Nature Group and that of dear Epsilon, who will appear on future shows. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Was he the last one? No, okay, yeah, he was the last one. Okay. For a gnome, he came in pretty strong. Okay. And he's kidding now. He goes, "What do you mean for a gnome?" Okay. For as small as they are, they're incredibly powerful. So they're not to be underestimated, trust me. Okay. Let us see here. We will now check the queue for questions. And it looks like we have someone within the queue with a phone number ending in 1646, wireless caller. So I will unmute you now. Welcome to the lifting. What's your question?
Hello. Hey, it's Terry from Pennsylvania.
Oh, hello, Terry.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good.
I was just wondering, is there soul groups that can't be changed, that can't be helped, they're leading people astray, that just, they have to be destroyed because they can't be saved, or like, can the cabal be saved?
Well, this is actually, I'm glad you asked this, because there are things that do have to, fall away and allow the universe to disintegrate them or destroy them. That would be like collapsing universes are a good example of this, because, why would creation allow parts of itself to collapse? Because these aspects are unneeded. They're either things that people don't have to learn from anymore, or that they were an overage and they have to be destroyed. And I'm not saying destroying in a violent way. I'm not saying a violent overthrow of the government or anything like that, because that would be futile. But there are members from what Valiant Thor has told me. He said there are variants within our government that are unwavering. They in the anti-changer crowd. That he himself is removing them. And he didn't go into extreme detail. He just said he was removing them from the planet because they were an unwavering overage, very much like the rule of toxicity that Lentazar was speaking of. They were so overly toxic that then so overbearing that people's energies wouldn't vibrate beyond them. So he himself had to come in and physically remove them. He didn't really go into overt details because he didn't want to jeopardize what he was doing. But suffice to say, you are correct in your intuition right now. There are aspects that do have to be eliminated in a particular way. Creation has to weed them out in some fashion. Did you want to add to this, Joanna? No? Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, pretty much. So the cabal has all this power, but is there any on third density, like a low density, or are they higher up?
There are some. This is another good question. There are some, of course, that are fading over into third density. We're in fourth right now, but there are other groupings. This would go into alien groupings too, that do cheat, as far as I'm concerned, and use technology to pass through the densities. I was shown that some of them have these strange suits or wristbands or helmets that can allow them to pass through the different densities. They use some of the same technology for time travel as well. I've seen benevolent races use these suits too, like other beings that are from higher densities. I know a couple beings that come from 8th and 9th density that wear these spacesuit type apparatuses so they can walk around in our density and still have a pocket of their density around them, so they could at least speak to us on some level or another. There are cabal groups and reptilian groups, even hybrid reptilian groups, that actually do use technology to actually come from 5D, which this proves to me that 5D isn't all completely blissful. It's more of an amalgam of both polarities, more of a condensed yin-yang. But this proves to me, like I said, that the 5D isn't pure like some people would have you believe.
Okay, yeah. And do you think these groups that they're leading people astray, they're causing nothing but problems? You think they'll see damnation or something? Or,
No. No, there really isn't a hell to send people to. Of course, there's like I know of a place that's within one of the zones here on Earth that bad beings are sent to. I nicknamed it the burning zone, but people keep thinking I'm talking hell when I'm really not. It's more of a physical place. Yeah, it's more of a. It's not It's not necessarily like a purgatory or anything that any of the religions have said. It's just a space that has been set aside for some of these beings that they just toss them in there, like we put prisoners in a prison. It's not really a dimension or anything figurative like what the Christian religion or any of them believe. It's just a place. I can see how it was mistaken for something like that, but do we die and go there? No.
So the source pretty much wants to help everybody and help everyone ascend.
Yes, exactly. Since we are source, the more we come into that realization, the more up in vibration we go. Joanna, did you want to add to this? You wanted to?
Well, I think there's a misunderstanding about those concepts of Chris was saying about hell, and I was hoping maybe this would be something someone from the Galactics could actually come in and clarify, because my understanding is it's about balance. And so if you are so negative and you're doing all this negative stuff, you are out of balance. And there has to be something that occurs if you're domineering, that you experience some of the opposite of that to get back into balance. And it could be the other way around. If you have an overage of being dominated, you may need to do something to become balanced as well. And so these beings that may have been at one point really great beings who decided to come down and play the darkness, they did it knowing that they were going to have to backtrack and then come back up again because of all of the darkness that they did for this learning experience. That's kind of what my understanding is, and why people can get the concept of hell or different things in their mind. But I was wondering if maybe someone could speak of that.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I can see if Galactic wants to touch on this particular concept. Let me see. I think somebody's raising their hand here. Who's raising their hand? They're behind the counter. I can't see your head. Okay. Let's see. Who's coming in? Really? This is actually a source I wasn't counting on being here tonight. I just saw a little hand poking over the counterway. And he has not actually spoken on this show ever, and he's spoken on various other shows I've been on. This being would be known as Brimble the Leprechaun, and he falls, of course, under the little people crowd. Let's see, and of course he's saying, "Who do you call little?" Okay. Let me see. Okay, what does he want to touch on this? Oh, okay. Give me just a second, and he'll answer this further. Greetings, everyone. My name, as this one has stated, is Brimble. I would like to touch on for you a bit of Irish ancient history that will clarify this particular point. Granted, it is not the only point in your history that will clarify this, but this is the point that I was personally witness to. In your histories, there was an ancient god, quote-unquote, known as Ire, the Destroyer, bringer of fire and pestilence and hell flames from the skies. This is a slightly inaccurate but also accurate term, because Ire was also one that started out very good. He was a being that was my friend, known as Santi. He was a scientist in the grouping of beings you know of as Orions or Anunnaki. He started out good, but then his soul voluntarily then took on some of the darker aspects of the universe. What I'm getting at is this. There was a plague that swept through some of your people in parts of ancient history. Parts of you know it as the Black Death, but it actually has more of a ghoulish connotation because it had the ability in its earlier years to transform people into hideous sorts of creatures. This is where some of your monster mythology comes from. In this particular instance, my friend Santi became the demigod known as Ire, and he chose to destroy and to maim. In this instance, he became humanity's lesson, or their dark mirror, very much as a satanic figure would. But all of creation noticed that one example was not enough. So, throughout your histories, very much like what happened with my dear friend Santi, there were other people that started out good but volunteered, as you say, for the darkness. Your Lucifer figure was one of them. Your Adolf Hitler is another, and variations thereof of many different humans and non-humans that volunteered to be your dark mirror in order to teach you. In this instance, yes, there were overages, but in the aspect of teaching, these particular volunteers, before they went out of control, that is, volunteered to see what it was like to live in these particular paradigms in order to be this particular mirror. We have all chosen this mirror at some point in history. Every single one of us, every deity, every demigod, every figure, hero and anti-hero that you've ever heard of has volunteered to play this role. We no longer need this particular bit of education, mind you, but it was needed in order to let people grow. Now, onto the subject of what you know of as hell. Yes, there is indeed a particular zone on your world known as the Burning Zone. This is a zone of a much larger, as you say, super Earth that was dictated as a prison cell for some of your less reputable entities that could not, as you say, snap out of the dark paradigm in which they put themselves in. Yes, some of them can be helped and have been helped, but some of the people that now run this particular zone have degenerated into this particular thought train themselves. You would know them as Dark Agarthans or Nazi Agarthans. Yes, they were the ones that aided Adolf Hitler during your World War II period along with the white reptilians, but I will not get into that bit of history right now. This particular zone was indeed mistaken for your fictional hell because of the fact that there were portals that were opening up across your planet's surface at one point before that barrier was most solidified. One of those was within your Israel area of your world, or your globe, as you see it to be. This would be the area also within your Jerusalem area known of as Gehenna, or the garbage dump, as some have called it. This portal did indeed have demonic-looking entities that would come out of this because the energy was so depraved and so dark that certain aspects of their genome did begin to alter. This actually gave rise to other beings such as some of more of your Draco reptilians coming up out of the ground and being seen as demon figures, horned demon figures. This also would lead me to bits of Agartha, and also in your Greek mythology, Tartarus, or you know of as Hades, where some of the reptilians have also lived. These two things, along with other parallel stories that have arisen because of alternate histories or never-wers of collapsed universes, have contributed to the subject of hell, one of which was also ancient Atlantis that burned in what you would know of as hellfire from the sky, then sank beneath the waves, moved further south, and then became the frozen Antarctic tundras. This is your bit of a history lesson for this evening, so I give you this blessing. Blessings to all of you listening to this particular show, and blessings to all that even have not heard of us or have never given us a second thought. We bless our foes and our enemies, and we bless all those that are within earshot and not earshot. We bless all of those in alternate realities and the like. I am Brimble, of what you know of the community as Leprechaun, and I am of the Elemental Code and of the group known as Epsilon. Thank you.
Wow, thanks. That's great info.
Yeah, Brimble, I haven't spoken to him in quite some time, but when he comes in with some pretty powerful information. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in there. We had to record it.
Yeah. Oh, yes, most definitely. Did you have any further questions?
Nothing much, unless you want to talk about like reincarnation. Like if
That might be a subject for a different show. It looks like we're at the top of the hour. We could actually. I could take one more question.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering, like if someone fails in their lifetime, if they have to be reincarnated back to try and succeed again.
I have been told that the subject of reincarnation, there's a bit of falseness to it, even though people have gone through past lives. There is a subject that's quite lengthy, but people have heard of it as soul traps or illusion type traps, where people are drawn back down into the reincarnation cycle. I've been told the concept of karma is not what people think it is. What people think is very judgmental is more or less energy flows. See, karma, quote unquote, was not supposed to pass the lifetime in which the bad energy was incurred. It was supposed to be action consequence. But due to some artificial intelligences that were out there since ancient times, they trapped certain energies within a constant reincarnation cycle, and therefore, or what we call the wash, rinse, and repeat cycle. So the punishment never really completely fit the crime. It was usually more, it was worse than what it should be. Like I always use the analogy: say somebody steals a loaf of bread in one lifetime, and the next lifetime they get their head chopped off. That doesn't really fit. So there are some times where the energies are sound, where you're just the energies are just showing cause and effect. There are other times where it's completely off the wall and uncalled for. That's where discernment comes in, whether it belongs or doesn't belong. Did you want to add anything to this subject, Joanna?
No, not on that subject. But I did think of one thing that I think may be appropriate now to bring in here at the end, and then re-bring it in a few more shows.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe if you think you're up to it, maybe one last thought from what I call the peanut gallery. But when you're looking around and you're seeing all these different anti-changers, or you're seeing the darkness and what it has done, I think people need to understand that it is okay to have negative feelings. And I know there's been a lot of New Age thought and people believing that you can only have positive thoughts. And that's not being balanced. So what I would say is that, it really is appropriate to get upset, to maybe not like somebody for a second, to maybe have whatever negative thought you want. It's not about not having them. And you have freedom in your mind to have those reactions. It's about what you do after that. And then are you dwelling and dwelling and dwelling in it? Because there comes a moment in time where if you dwell in it too much, you do actually allow for negativity and start co-creating negative things. But there's a period of time where you can just feel it. So I think that's important to understand, because there's no way that people are going to really realize what's going on around them and all of these different players and what the darkness has done, and think that they're supposed to stay in this place of happy, happy, joy, joy all the time, because it's not happy, happy, joy, joy. You've got to discover all of this, and you should have the appropriate feelings, but you don't want to dwell there, and you want to be able to bring yourself up out of it and still move forward. So I just was wanting, first of all, to give people permission to have a full range of emotions, and that's fine. But I was wondering if, as we discover these things and we have these emotions, if maybe someone from the Galactics could at least give people an idea of what is okay, and then when are you potentially stuck, and then you could potentially start co-creating negativity, so people know how to maneuver through all this.
Yeah, that's actually a good question here. I'll see if somebody can actually give this example. Anybody want to channel through me? Oh, they're telling me no on the channeling part, but they will give me a bit of information here. They usually tell me when I'm at a particular limit or so. I don't feel like I'm at my limit, but I take Simeon's word for it here. But he is saying that if the emotion does not feel like it is your own, if it feels like it's coming from outside of you, like it's something atypical for your personality, or if it's an over bloated negative emotion, like just all of a sudden, like say you were having a good day and then all of a sudden you're just really pissed off, and you just go from like 0 to pissed in just like a few seconds, and nothing has happened. Say you've encountered no stress for the day, nothing has happened. That would be a good indicator that you've encountered something oppressive or obtrusive. And is that the only example he's giving? Okay, that's the example he's giving tonight for thought-wise. Let me see. No one wants to give any other examples. So I hope that answers any of your concerns there, Terry.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think we all need to experience like the good and the bad and the ugly and all that to mature and ascend and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I couldn't have stated it better myself. Well, it looks like we're actually past the hour here. So let me see. I'm going to mute you out now, Terry. Thank you for calling in this evening.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the time.
And we are past the hour, so I do apologize to other people. We are going to have our Q&A show this Thursday, so if anybody has any questions, you'll have the entire hour to ask them this Thursday at 8 o'clock Eastern. So the ending affirmation and blessing, I believe that's for you, Joanna, since you wrote it.
Okay. Blessings to all, and go with peace in your heart, knowing that the changes you were meant to fulfill will happen. So thanks, everybody, for joining us tonight. There is so much to talk about, and we have really just begun. But as always, protect yourself and discern. So everyone have a great night, and just remember that if you want to hear this again, just as soon as this call is finished, you can call the free conference call replay number at 712-775-7039, or you may also listen to this and other shows by visiting our website, which is thelifting2017.wixsite.com/thelifting. Please watch for our weekly blog. We post a new one every Monday and discuss it further on Tuesday's show. Hopefully, between reading the blog and listening to the discussion on the show, you will be able to reflect and ask questions related to the topic. Don't hesitate to send us any questions. You can send them to our email, thelifting2017@gmail.com. And again, as Chris was saying, this Thursday, February 2nd, is our second Viewers Question Show. We've got many questions that have been turned in already, but of course, we love to hear people calling in with live questions as well. And so we will do our best to answer everything that comes through. And if you would like a personal appointment with either Chris or his mom, Katrina, you can go to the website and click into the appointments tab to get that started. For Chris, the session costs are $125 for an hour and $200 for 2 hours, and he will not go over a 2-hour reading in one session. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, and we look forward to chatting with you guys again on Thursday for our second Q&A show. Good night.
Good night, everybody. Have a good evening.